We're going to start off with Stephen Goff. Mr. Stephen Goff, go ahead.
Hey, Megan, Steve Goff from the Washington Post. Thanks for your time. Wondering, you've never been shy about expressing your thoughts on the social issues of our times, and wanted to get your take on what's been happening in our country and our society right now.
Oof. As I think it sets in, and we're, I guess, almost a week out from January 6th, which will certainly, and rightfully so, live on in the echoes of American history forever. It's just striking how horrible it was, and just how insane it was, from the climate in the country being such that we have our political leaders, our chief political leader, inciting an actual real life murderous and deadly insurrection against his own government, against his own people, against his own party. The Vice President of the United States was in the halls of Congress, as were congresspeople and, senators alike, and all the people that work in that building as well, from the staff to the Capitol Police, et cetera. To see where we've come in these 4 years has been devastating. And also just, I think, hopefully the final straw for so many people to really understand, like, the reason that we're here is because we never have actually had a reckoning with what our country really is. Like, this is America. Make no mistake about it. I think we showed very much our true colors. This is not the first time we've seen a murderous mob like that. I think, unleashing a white supremacist mob is nothing new to America, as, people of color, black and brown, know that very well. All the calls for, unity and justice obviously cannot come without justice, unity and a sort of moving forward cannot come without justice. If we do not, punish this and investigate this to the fullest extent, it only encourages more of this to happen. I think, too, we should not underestimate what could have happened. I think that we are very lucky that officer led them away from the Senate halls, that mob. I mean, we saw people with weapons and people with zip ties, and, like, why would they they put up a gallows outside the Capitol building where they were chanting to hang the Vice President of the United States. So anybody thinking, oh, well, they wouldn't really have done that much. And I think, honestly, we give, the sort of a pass a little bit, maybe because it looks familiar to us because it's white or it's white supremacist, or maybe we haven't, seen this in our lifetimes. But I think that we should make no mistake about what the intent was behind it. And it was a murderous mob. I mean, 5 people are dead, and we can't bring them back. So this week certainly will be hugely consequential in the history of our country. It's going to be very intense. But, just from a personal standpoint, it's very unsettling and scary. I think the courage of the lawmakers to get back in there and continue their work, and, the utter bottomlessness of some of these lawmakers to continue to, incite violence and still call for overturning the election when the mandate's been given by the United States and by the people of the United States is just absolutely insane. They should be held accountable. And I think in order for us to move on, that has to happen. We obviously have, an extremely long road amidst a global pandemic where you literally have people sheltering from an insurrection happening on the Capitol, and they still will not wear a mask. And we're seeing, outbreaks happening. A few lawmakers, have tested positive. So hopefully this is the last layer that we needed to rip off, although it's been abundantly clear for, a number of 100 years what the real issue is. This was about white supremacy and holding up white supremacy, and I hope that we can see this and, move forward with justice. And I think that's the only way that that we can actually move forward. I think it's all out in the open. It's all stripped bare at this point. And so hopefully, the lawmakers will have the courage to do what needs to be done. And everyday citizens as well will understand that we have a part to play in it, just as everybody else does. So this is a huge stain on the country, but hopefully an opportunity for us to move forward in the way that we need to.
Thanks, Meg.
Hope that answered your question, Steve.
Indeed.
Following up that is Jonathan Tannenwald. Go ahead, JT.
Thank you, Aaron. I wanted to ask Megan, as you've watched your colleagues on the national team step up on anti-racism activism and a lot of other areas in the time that you've been out, what's it been like for you to watch them do that, and now to be back in the national team environment and have that opportunity to again be part of it?
Yeah, I feel like a little emotional talking about it. I have, just a huge amount of pride and respect for so many people going through their journey and learning and growing and, feeling more comfortable speaking out about things. Obviously, what we saw through the summer and just through the pandemic with the protests, hopefully a lot of people's eyes are opened up, particularly, my fellow white teammates. So it is in fact our responsibility to stand, in unity with our Black teammates to make them feel that this is an open space to talk about things. I think that we have not done a good enough job as a whole team. As a whole country, obviously, but just speaking for our team, we can always do better. Just hearing about a lot of the conversations that have happened, a lot of the progress that has been made, the different players stepping up, and knowing how different it is now as opposed to 4 years ago when I first knelt. Seeing, frankly, the growth and reconciliation start to happen with the Federation as well, with the repeal of the kneeling ban and an apology for that. I think that's a huge step. One, I know, appreciated by myself, but appreciated by the Black players on our team as well. And I'm sure, members of the media, people of color, and Black people, our fans, everybody. I think it's a necessary first step. So I've, been just super happy, excited, and proud of the way that the team has taken this on and will continue to have these conversations. I think that's the, most encouraging part, is that we know that this is something that's going to be a constant conversation for us and a constant, learning process, and areas where we can grow and use our platform in the most effective way. We are in an incredibly unique situation to be able to represent the United States of America via our sport, and have such a cross-section of culture and race and sexuality and personalities on this team. And this is just one more area that we'll continue to try to shine light and do the best that we can to use our voices in the loudest way possible. But to think of obviously where we were 4 or 5 years ago to where we are now as players and as a federation, and now we can start to move forward together, I think is is huge and shows a big shift in leadership at the top of U.S. soccer and shows a lot of growth from the players in the team right now.
Thank you so much and welcome back.
Meg Linehan, you're up.
Hi, Megan. Meg Linehan from The Athletic. I feel like this is a topic we've talked about a lot over the years and have brought up from a national team point of view, but when you are now back in camp and putting on the crest of the U.S. Women's National Team, especially for some of these topics that we've talked about so far, what are you thinking about when you have a designation of this country on your body?
I mean, I feel it is, my personal responsibility to make the world a better place in whatever way that I can. And I am very lucky and fortunate and have been a part of building this incredible platform that is the U.S. Women's National Team. I think, probably didn't take even more pride turning on the crest. The last time I put the crest on, I put it on inside out. And I feel like we've come a long way from that in a lot of different ways. And clearly we still have ground to gain on that. But, I think that we are definitely heading in the right direction. And so being able to come back, and especially after what we saw last week, to have this team represent red, white, and blue and a crest and, in an American flag, in essence, for what we stand for and the future that we're fighting for and inclusion and, using our platform to speak out about the right things. It's going to be a really special moment, I think, for a lot of us and, the first of many and sort of this new journey and this continued journey of fighting to make the world a more equitable place, a safer place, frankly, a less racist place than it is today. So I'm looking forward to obviously being back out on the field with my teammates, but I think putting the crest on, as of now, right side out, barring anything crazy happening, I'm just kidding. Right side out will be a very special moment and I think a proud moment for everybody on this team. I know it will be for me.
One quick follow-up. There was a pretty well-spread photo of someone trying to return back home following the attempted coup at the Capitol wearing a U.S. national team shirt with the Trump mask, and just wondering if you have a reaction to that, if you have a message for people who might try and to have both of those identities at the same time somehow.
Yeah, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, I feel like I can probably speak on behalf of a lot of my teammates. That is not the kind of fan that we will welcome. The U.S. crest is not to be confused with anything that has to do with white supremacy, anything that has to do with the Trump administration, anything that has to do with that divisive culture that we saw on the Capitol. So don't take any comfort in thinking that the crest is synonymous with that or the red, white, and blue or the stars that we have above it. I saw the picture and, we want to create and continue to create a place that's inclusive and safe and diverse for our fans to be and for our players to play in front of and for people to watch on TV and for the media to cover. So don't bring that here.
Thank you.
Let's go to Sarah Walsh. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, how you doing? Hi, Meg. I'll be on the Fox broadcast of the game on Monday, and so I was curious, just more from the game perspective, can you just sort of give us a broad overview for you of, like, if you would go back to January of last year, you'd be getting ready for the Olympics, and if someone would have fast forward and said, hey, you're stepping into January 2021, the Olympics are still ahead of you now, which sort of seems crazy if we go back and look at it that way. Can you just sort of give us your mindset in terms of stepping back out onto the field this week and firing back up for something that was supposed to happen last summer, and sort of just where you are physically, mentally with all of that?
I mean, to be honest, from a very selfish and personal standpoint, I mean, there was so much positive that came from this long layoff. I don't think I've, been this rested my entire career. Certainly not since maybe high school. I'm in a much better position, as of January 12th, 2021 than I was 1 year ago. Obviously, coming off the World Cup and everything that ensued was just, an amazing mayhem, but mayhem nonetheless. And, not playing much the back half of the year, very sporadic, and trying to balance all of the, media and appearances and, opportunities that I had. It was difficult to even, be ready for those January games. Obviously, we went right into qualifiers, and She Believes. I think, you guys have covered it, know that I was slow to to get back into things last year. So I actually feel really good physically, and just, refreshed in a lot of ways. Mentally and emotionally. I got to spend obviously a lot of time quarantining at home with Sue and just being able to relax. But I'm obviously so excited to start playing again. It was really difficult to not be out on the field with my teammates and to not have a consistent training environment. Anyone who really knows me knows I hate to work out on my own as it is. So to have to do that for 10 straight months and try to keep myself motivated was very difficult. But I'm really looking forward to being back out on the field with my teammates. And honestly, I think that, it's so difficult to go World Cup and Olympics. We talk about this all the time. I don't think any team has gone back to back winning that, and there's a reason for that. It's just difficult. You spend this sort of 1.5 year period preparing for the World Cup, and then you kind of have to turn it around so quickly and do the Olympics, which is an even tougher tournament because of timelines. So the team, I think, is in a really good place and excited to be back together. And for me personally, I feel thankful that I was able to have that time, and grateful that I was able to have that time, because I feel a lot better this January than I did last January.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's go to Annie Peterson. Go ahead, Ann.
Hi, Megan. Hey, so kind of jumping on that question, what were the reasons that you decided to opt out of the Challenge Cup and the Fall Series? And, kind of in a bigger picture, reflecting on last year, you qualified for the Olympics, you had a book come out, you had an HBO series, and on top of everything, you got engaged. Congratulations, by the way. Can you kind of give us a big picture of what last year was like for you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the reason for the absence from all competitive soccer last year was always sort of a combination of COVID concern and not really being ready to be in competitive games because I couldn't really get consistent training, and just wasn't really in a place that I felt comfortable to put myself back into competitive games, and the virus concerns, frankly. I still have a lot of virus concerns as it's, raging all across the country. But, the Federation is set up in an amazing environment here that feels very safe and is, as close to a bubble as we can get. And we're sort of, in the middle of nowhere, Florida. The fields are right at the complex, and we're able to kind of have some space and do that really safely. The last year, I feel like, Sue and I both really early on just sort of took the approach like, okay, it is what it is. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. Early on in quarantine, you couldn't really do much. So even, working with the trainer that we both used, trying to figure out what kind of workouts we were doing, obviously doing much less. You're not going to be able to train the way that you need to train to be a high-level athlete. In the first 2 weeks of quarantine, we couldn't even leave the apartment. We were lunging suitcases down the hallway, just doing whatever we could. Eventually, we got a Peloton. But I think just mentally, it put us in a good place of okay, let's work out for our health and our mental health. Do as much as you can. Know that you're not going to be able to do everything. Don't beat yourself up about it. And then I think from, other perspective in terms of our online presence or, doing the book and the show and all those kinds of things, both of us were let's just do what we can. Early on in quarantine, it was, kind of our approach was let's have some levity. We had our little Instagram show, fueled by Moscow Mules, of course, as most people know. So that was fun. Provide just a little levity and entertainment for people and ourselves, of course. As things got more serious after George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, that didn't really feel inappropriate anymore. So how do we then throw our platform into, lifting up Black voices and supporting social justice movement? Obviously, Sue then, goes to the bubble, and I was able to join her down there during the absolute hottest months of Florida, which was really just too hot for me. I need to never come here in the summer. But to be a part of that and take the time to spend with each other and be a part of just the incredible WNBA season that happened. And shout out to the NWSL as well. I think they did such a fantastic job, not only getting the season off and having it being really safe, but, centering social justice. The players took on so much for a league and for a sport traditionally that has not been that involved in social justice, especially when talking about Black Lives Mattering. So being a part of all that, I feel like we just tried to, do what we can, stay busy, stay active. I felt like for both Sue and I, it wasn't a moment where we needed to pivot. This is who we are. This is what we're all about. We obviously are aware that we have, a platform and that we have influence, but we want to do that. We're seeing the impact that we're having. I mean, Sue was, sort of the brainchild, and obviously with the execution of the WNBA players and flipping 2 Senate seats, which is just in a traditionally deeply red state. They, elected a Black man and a Jewish man, which is just absolutely incredible. So I feel like we just tried to, be flexible and sort of go with the flow and continue to throw our voices into anything that we felt like we could have an impact in. And I think we didn't spend too much time worrying about what was lost, but rather what we can do in this moment, being thankful that we could spend time with each other. And there is a lot to be thankful for this year. We feel that personally. And so, yeah, just try to make the best of everything of a really difficult year.